something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
This was a fork in the road of human civilization.
Hello, folks. How are you? Nice to catch you tonight. I've had a bit of a muck-up, running a little bit late as usual. It's always fun. Got Michael Offe coming in to join us very shortly. He is the brother of Paul Offe, of course, who is, was due in court today for his Supreme Court hearing. However, there has been a bit of an update, and we will have Michael on very shortly to talk more about it. We're also going to catch up very shortly with a couple of lovely folks from the Corruption Whistleblower. And that will be Michael ringing me. Pardon me a moment, won't you? Hello, my friend. Yes, we use this secret app that nobody can hear us. Works really well. If you go and check your email, you'll find a link there, mate. I don't know if you can hear me. I can't really have the phone going. At any rate, we'll have the folks from the Corruption Whistleblower joining us too at some stage throughout the evening. And I'm going to turn the phone on silent. So we'll see just how well that works. All right. So how was your weekend? Did you party? Did you go out and do weird, wild, fantastic and amazing things? Or did you, like many people in far north Queensland, sit at home and watch the rain? Now, as you know, we have a number of viewers from far north Queensland, and in the worst affected areas around Townsville, we have a lot of people that watch the show up there and further north. And one of those is a great friend of the show, Skipper Pete. He's up around Ingham. So he sent me a little series of videos. Now, these videos were taken maybe the day before yesterday now. I received them yesterday, so it might have been taken yesterday morning. At that stage, he had received just under 800 mils of rain in a little under 36 hours.
Well, I've had 780 mil of rain in the last 7 days. And some of it was vertical, some of it was horizontal. We're getting the 45 degree rain at the moment. Yes, I think the forecast of a metre of rain was fairly accurate. We're going to crack that by tomorrow, I'd say. Happy days. The rain gauge was over 300 mil, overflowing, so God knows what it got.
We'll see.
Here we are, all the way down the back. Yes. We have a lot of water here, people. It was bone dry yesterday. Not anymore. Shortly that'll be the river coming through here. When the river breaks its banks, that'll get exciting. The crocodile will come.
There you go. Crocodiles are actually a bit of a problem, as you would expect up that sort of part of the world. I'm just letting everybody know that I've sent stuff. I can't talk and do things at the same time. There you go. They should be logging in very shortly. Yeah, so far north Queensland, all sorts of interesting things come out of the water. We'll get to that shortly.
Yeah, everything's wet. The velociraptors don't care, but check out my creek. Raging torrent out here. I'm going to check the gauge in a minute, but I've got a really strong feeling it's going to be fully overflowing, so God knows how much rain I've had. Now, that'll be about 10 or 12 foot deep in here now.
10 or 12 foot deep. And, well, we'll get to the rain gauge.
Alright, well the rain turned my screen off before, but I've got to keep it covered with me bloody app. But yeah, that's a little bit more water than yesterday. Yes. You got to watch out for brown snakes and taipans, spiders, all sorts of things that are looking for my house in the high ground area. So, yes, we've got some.
So, don't know whether or not you caught it through his muffle. He had to have a hat over the screen so it didn't keep turning itself off in the rain. But Pete was saying when I was talking to him on the phone yesterday that well, I don't know how well you know snakes, folks, but not all snakes can climb. So when a flood comes along, they need to seek high ground. Same with spiders, same with anything that can't swim generally. And then you have to worry about the things that can swim that come up in the deep water. That little creek that's out the back of his place is normally only maybe a foot deep. But this time of the year, 12 foot deep and probably growing. Now, I did say we would get to the rain gauge. Remember, before he got to the rain gauge, he'd had 780 mil of rain.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have more than 300 in the gauge. Well, the velociraptors are just happy to be out of the pen. Yeah, that looks like that's fully overflown. It certainly is. There we go. Full. Full. Look at that.
Now, that is a staggering amount of rain. That's over a metre of rain in, what he said, 7 days. But it was a lot quicker than that. I guess over the 7 days, he's probably had closer to 1.5 meters of rain. But I don't know if you caught it at the end of that particular video where he showed you the rain gauge. Have a look at that. Now, I've heard in far north Queensland, they do like their beers. But it looks to me like it's raining pale ale in far north Queensland at the moment. Either that, or there might have been a bit of dirt, I don't know how, in his rain gauge, or is all that, I've got to assume it's dust and dirt, coming out of the atmosphere as it's being rained down. But get a load of the colour of that water. So it looks more like a pale ale to me. Not that I drink that, but it is what it is, I guess. All a bit of fun. Here's something that you'll all be overjoyed to hear if you live in Victoria. Ta-da! These are the new PSO graduation. They're recruits. They've graduated. That's the police service organisation, I'm guessing. PSO, I don't know. These recruits have spent the last 12 weeks training at the academy, undertaking classes in law, defensive tactics, and firearms training. I bet they got more training in the latter, or the two latter, than they did in the former, but that's just a guess. They've got all this training to prepare them for their role. You will spot them out and about in the transport hub near you soon. Wow. Okay. Congratulations to all who've managed to get themselves there and get their PSO, whatever that means, graduate points. And I'm sure it's a fabulous thing. And congratulations on being able to join such a wonderful service. And I hope you can be of service to everybody. And of course, leading by example are many of your countrymen who have come before
Fuck you.
Good lad.
Yeah, go for it. Fuck it. Yeah.
Couldn't resist.
Hi, are you passionate about supporting independent media and social events? Voice of Freedom is dedicated to bringing you the latest happenings and things that matter. But we can't do it without your help. By donating, sponsoring, or becoming a member, you're not just supporting our mission. You're joining a community that values transparency and engagement. Your contributions allow us to continue producing high-quality content that informs and inspires. Visit VOFHQ.com to make a donation or explore sponsorship or membership opportunities. You can even donate using crypto. Together, we can amplify voices that deserve to be heard as we continue to create a vibrant platform for social change. Go to VOFHQ.com, help us to help you by joining us and making a difference today.
Well, you can make a difference very shortly, folks. If you don't mind doing a little bit of driving and you'd like to come to Canberra, we would love to see you February the 8th for the grand jury indictments. Now, some folks who have been on the road all day today finally managed to get themselves into some reception area, which is absolutely marvellous. I'm talking about Donna and Peter, of course, from the Corruption Whistleblower. Lovely to have you here, Donna, and well, you're around somewhere. Glad to see you made it to well, nearly made it to your venue.
Hey, how you going? Great to hear you. Thanks.
Hey, Pete, good to see you.
Thanks for good to see you too.
Been doing a lot of work towards the 8th of February. It's coming up fast. So
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, how's it all looking?
Great. We're just doing the participation form and leading up the charges or the process, let's say.
Yeah, that'll be hopefully before the day. We'll cut the days. The only thing you really need to bring with you will be the oath and the participation form. But there will also be evidence on there. It's a swindle.
Yeah, true that. Guys, your reception is great. You've been dropping out your microphone. I don't know, it's very hard to hear, so if you can speak up a bit. One of the plans, of course, February the 7th is the third year anniversary for the Canberra Standards. I'd like to be there for that too, so I know there's a few people turning up for that. And then the next day, February the 8th, is our picnic in the park.
Yes, that's right. It's the grand jury indictment day at Magna Carta Place. We'd love to see you there. We'll be running the indictment. We'll be interacting with everyone and have some papers there. The first, second, and third edition of the Corruption Whistleblower will be selling there as well. So if you'd like to help and assist, please reach out to us on info@corruptionwhistleblower.com, info@corruptionwhistleblower. Reach out to us if you'd like to be a part of this very historic movement, making the putting for the people the grand jury indictment, and if the big court will be making a choice whether we pursue on them. We have PACs coming and talking as well. The fantastic group of police men and women who have much of the other side come over to the truth side. They're doing talks and training people on how to understand and grasp the key triggers that police really react to. Self-defense, PAX, going around doing talks in Australia. So they're coming and doing talks as well. They'll be perusing around the crowd. And lots of other supplies as well. So on Saturday the 8th, 12 noon it starts.
And just to reiterate what actually happened is we're going to be running two indictments. One for the treason, the fraud, the referendum frauds, and then the second indictment will be on the Offe massacre, whether indict, not indict, and then community orders. And I explained last time, they will be such that nature as if you're a pilot and you're flicking that switch with spray chemtrails, then you will be indicted for against you in the near future. So there'll be 10 orders like that, and so that'll be the third document for everybody to out and make your voice heard.
All right, mate. We've got real problems with your audio coming through. We've got a link for sort of getting double audio. It's very difficult to understand. So I'm going to have to leave you there, but I'll bring the people up to date with the details. And we will catch up again later this week for a further update. We'll try and do that on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks so much.
No worries, guys. Be safe.
Everyone.
Stay safe.
Still got a little bit of their journey to continue. I know how far they've driven so far today. They got a little way to go. So this will be good. They'll be able to get away a little bit earlier and get to their destination for tonight. If you are planning on coming down for February the 8th, hey, come for February the 7th and come and be part of the 3rd anniversary for the Canberra Standers at the Governor-General's. Now, I'm not exactly sure what has been, if anything, spectacular planned for the event. I'm sure something will be going on. I know the plan was that Guru was going to be turning up as well, so we'll catch up with him and a few others who will be there on the day, I have no doubt. And we would love for those folks who turn up to go and help the Canberra Standers celebrate 3 years of their dedication. And congratulations to all of them that have been just unbelievably dedicated every day for 3 years. Speaking of which, I was talking to Dan the other day, veteran Dan, who stood there for, I think 2 or thereabouts of those years, a little over 2 or thereabouts of those years. I was speaking to him the other day. He's doing really well. He's back with family and friends in Western Australia. He wishes he could be here for this 3rd anniversary, but unfortunately circumstances sort of prevent it. He is a bloody long way away after all. And he did spend a huge amount of time on this side of the country away from his friends and family. I don't begrudge him staying back in WA. So much love to Dan. And I'm really pleased to the chat we had the other day. I'm really pleased that he's doing so well. It's great. So the rest of the crew, Phil, I know, has been in and out and in and out and in and out, as Phil has been for I don't know how long down that way. And, well, since the beginning, I guess. There are quite a few others who have been there from the beginning. And I can't name you all because I'll leave somebody out. And if I do that, I'm going to be in all sorts of shit. So my apologies. So I will be down and look forward to catching you all on the 7th. And folks, I can't commend you enough. If you're feeling like a nice drive, a beautiful day in Canberra on the 7th, and then another beautiful little look at, picnic in the park on the 8th, we would love to have you as part of all of that. The plan was for me to be in Canberra already. The plan was for me to be in Canberra for today, which in the big scheme of things would have been day 1 of the Paul Offe Supreme Court trial over the police confiscating his Freedom truck and, in my opinion, loading him up with all sorts of charges that ultimately will not be provable by the people who are claiming these charges. So why aren't I in Canberra, and where is Paul? Well, let's find out. Joining us is Michael Offe, Paul's brother, on the Gold Coast. Michael, g'day, buddy. How are you? Oh, you're going to need to unmute your microphone if this is going to work.
Ah, yes. Try that again, shall we? G'day, everyone. How are you, Carl?
Yeah. Professional radio skills and TV skills coming to the fore. Good, mate. Let's. We were meant to be in Canberra today. We would have been having dinner somewhere swanky on your tab, but we're not. What's going on?
Yes. Okay. So with Paul's matter, those of you may remember this big truck, and that's Paul in the bright shirt there. He's supposed to be in court trial, as you say, starting today, that would have lasted for 2 or 3 weeks. The few things have gotten in the way of that and caused some changes to be required. There was some witness availability issues and a few other issues with the other side of proceedings, and that was a pretty big issue. And then there was also our barrister, unfortunately, came down with some major health issues, sort of leading into Christmas. Thought he would get a good recovery, and then sort of between Christmas and New Year got the updates from the medicos that it wasn't as good as he was hoping, and they wouldn't clear him for travel. And he also isn't really well enough to travel. I think he was probably hopeful that he would push through, but he's not really doing perfectly.
Yeah, he's
and
not
it
based
might be
in
a
Canberra.
few months recovery. Sorry, what was that?
He's not based in Canberra, so that's why travel becomes
No.
a bit of an issue. and
That's right. He's a
and
couple of
certainly
states away.
we wish him a speedy recovery. For those of you that might be querying the fact he is not jabbed, I don't think he. Oh no,
I don't believe
might
so.
have that wrong. Yeah, no, don't believe
No,
so.
I don't
Yeah,
believe
right.
so. Yeah.
So
He's not a
we
fan
can't
of
lay
a
it
lot
down
of
to
the
that.
medical interventions.
Yeah, exactly. But we certainly wish him a speedy recovery. We wish a pox on the prosecution's case, and obviously this will come before the court again in March. I think it is now, where they'll have another pre-trial hearing to try and set another date. Is that right?
Yes. So yeah, literally just the last couple of days of last week, we finally managed to get the matter moved, or with taken out of the hearing date or the trial date, which we were worried about how that would go, but thankfully that went okay, and the courts accepted that it was obviously clearly issues outside of Paul's control. So they vacated that hearing, and then 3rd of March we have another call-over hearing to set a whole new trial date, which I suspect, at best guess, I imagine that would be somewhere between April, May, June, somewhere in that period of time, perhaps.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That should give sufficient time for a new barrister to get briefed, because that's a few month process. I mean, the current barrister's already taken 3 months to get his, a good understanding of the case, and so it's going to take a little bit of time.
And it is quite a detailed case, as we've explored on the show before. There are many facets to it, and certainly some elements, surprising as they might be, are very significant in Paul's defence of these, what I think in some cases are just malicious prosecutions. Is that something you are likely to be looking into with your lawyers at some point in the near future?
Yeah, well, I think the general consensus across our team is that it's absolutely crazy scenario, and should have really never. There was no need for him to be arrested if they'd given clear direction as to what they actually wanted him to do, which was completely lacking. And if they, tried to assist in any way to work out where he was trying to get to and help him actually get away there, like, he had approval by the police to be going to where he was going. So it was just more a case of how to get there, which they didn't facilitate whatsoever. And then decided and it seems almost like half the police were doing one thing and the other half had a different idea, and neither really knew what each other was doing. So no wonder Paul was confused.
And this is why you have been so busy, along with the rest of the defence team, getting as much data as you possibly can from that day from the AFP under Freedom of Information, amongst other things. And it has been very enlightening to learn.
Well, yeah, there's you've got to establish as much facts behind what's actually happened as possible, or at least what they used to draw their conclusions to their charges. So yeah, there's a lot of effort goes into. They don't always want to release everything, no doubt, because not everything would really make cases look fantastic either. So
I agree. Do you think the prosecution found it surprising and or maybe a little intimidating that when they went forward and said, this trial we expect to last 2 to 3 days, and the defence team came forward and said, well, in fact, Your Honour, it's not going to be like that at all. It's going to last 2 to 3 weeks. We have an extensive witness list, and we'll be calling a lot of people.
The only way that they seem to have this deluded idea that it will last 2 or 3 days is if they presented their handful of witnesses. We didn't have any witnesses to refute it, which is far from the case. We've got a lot of witnesses who all think it's absolute load of rubbish. And also
some bring their own video to prove it.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of video and photo evidence to prove that, and you can see most of them can prove that they were very close to the truck from those types of images. And So the only way that that could possibly be 2 or 3 days is if you basically didn't fight it and you just said, okay, we'll take whatever rubbish you want to throw at us with all your concocted witness statements, you know.
Yeah.
I've got a quicker way that we could make it last about 5 minutes. We'd be quite happy to take that option. They could just go, oh, sorry, we're really stuffed up, Your Honour, and we're dropping all charges and we're reimbursing him for loss of income and damages. That
Damages
could get
to the
it down
truck.
to maybe 5 minutes and a couple of hours to draw up the paperwork.
Yeah.
But I
And a
don't
couple
think
of
they're
hours
going
later to repossess the truck.
Well, yes, not that I'd be too comfortable driving that anywhere until it gets a full service by Freightliner, because I would say there's tens of thousands of dollars worth of work to do on it now. So I've had the thing sitting in and not, I would imagine, not maintained in any way, shape or form for 3 years. Heavy vehicles are supposed to be maintained pretty much monthly. So
So that's going to be all sorts of problems. Been through 3 winters, 3 summers, and everything else Canberra can throw at it with a smashed windscreen and everything else. For all you know, there could be a hibernating polar bear in there by now.
They could be. I don't know.
Would be the first time.
There could be some woke Great Northern beer in there, for all we know.
Yeah, mate. How's the
For the
four-wheel drive
hideout.
community? For those folks who don't know, Michael is right into the four-wheel drive and community in Queensland, particularly, but around Australia. And four-wheel drivers are notorious Great Northern drinkers. Great Northern have come out with an advertising campaign that is, I mean, it rivals Bud Light with its wokeness. And there has now been a call go out from Simon Christie from Four Wheel Drive TV, I think, to ban or abstain from Great Northern in future. I imagine you'll be taking up on that.
Well, I don't really drink it in the first place, but no, I think they've hurt their bottom line pretty badly, and there's quite a few. They're under the Asahi group as well, of companies, and another layer of companies in between that. So there's a lot of brands that are probably not going to be doing too well for a little while, I would say. But yeah, it's just one of those stupid things where I would say that probably some new marketing manager has popped into the scene straight out of somewhere where they wouldn't know the difference between a national park and the Opera House, and have made some rather silly calls, thinking that it's going to make their core customer base quite happy, which they seem to forget that national parks, which they were wanting to send a whole lot of money towards to buy up new land to turn into national parks are getting poorly budgeted, no maintenance, getting, as a result of either that or other agendas, they're getting locked up, and people not able to access them anymore, or on very limited tracks, assuming they even keep them open. And then you get turned into a major fire risk. They end up with a bunch of invasive species in there because they don't maintain things properly. And you basically destroy your supposed area you're trying to protect. So you can understand a lot of people that actually do utilize those outdoor areas, outback areas, quite hot under the collar about it. So
and while there are always lazy people in every group, I watch quite a number of four-wheel driving shows because I've never been four-wheel driving in my life. And I'd love to think that it would be something I could do, but I think I'd scare the crap out of myself before I got anywhere good at it. But the emphasis, particularly in those shows, is clean up after yourselves. Do no harm to the bush. You know, these guys take more care of trees, winching themselves out of tight spots, you know, wrapping tree protection around it and all that sort of stuff, than anybody on a farm would ever do about winching out of anything. So,
right.
You know, it is really looking after the land as they enjoy it. And I, for one, can't see why. Well, I do know why there is this push to get you off the land, but we have to push harder. We got to push back.
Well, there's one big thing the whole green movement for the last, well, it started. I remember Dad complaining about it when he was in the CFS in the Rural Fire Brigade back in what was that, mid-80s, and they had big fires go through national parks in the lower end of the Flinders Ranges where he was based, and the greenies at the time were standing there refusing to let their bulldozers in to do fire breaks.
Yeah.
And they're going, you stop us doing fire breaks, your whole lovely bushland and all your habitat and all the animals are going to get burnt to a crisp because we can't stop it. And that was back then, and it's progressively gotten worse. Now, not only do they try and stop them doing fire breaks, now they refuse to let you reduce fuel load of dead trees and all that sort of stuff because it has to be there as a habitat for all the small critters. Well, that's well and good. It's great, but Australia's a country that goes from fire to flood to drought. It goes in huge swings, and when those swings come through, you have to either be prepared for it or let the place get destroyed.
Yeah, true that.
And four-wheel drivers, they do, and those types of bush users, they do keep those tracks open and clear and help maintain them. Like they do spend a lot of time clearing fallen trees off of tracks and that sort of thing to get through, which then means that next time a rural fire brigade needs to get up there in an emergency, or worse still, they're trying to get out away from a oncoming fire that's turned back on them and they try to take another track, they can actually get out and save their lives. So
true that.
But anyway, sorry, we digress a little bit.
No, it's all good, and it is a big issue. A lot of people that I know watch the show have four-wheel drives. I'm not sure how many of them go, completely off-road and want to go and trek up. I know it's every four-wheel driver's dream, I think, to do a trip up the Cape, and I'll be honest, I would love to do a trip up the Cape. However, I don't know how good my knees would be in the mud. I don't know how good I'd be trying to knee my way up those hills so that I could...
Just don't get stuck.
Well, just don't get stuck. Well, see, I don't own the four-wheel drive, and I seriously doubt whoever would own the four-wheel drive would let me drive it. So I wouldn't. Like that. So, no. But, yeah, I'm very keen to give it a go one day. But I hope I can get there and do some of those great tracks like the old Telly track. And have you done Cape York?
No, that's one area I haven't done. There's a lot of areas I haven't done, actually, but I have grown up in the mid-north of South Australia and gone through some interesting tracks through there and spent a lot of time camping and hunting and that sort of thing on big station properties and whatever when I was a kid. So, yeah, it's great. Great experience.
Like, when we get the Freedom truck back, it's going to be an Offe Brothers Voice of Freedom Cape trip.
Yeah, but that, I mean, obviously, we've got a pretty amazing country with some really nice areas to see that a lot of people don't get to see, and in favour of going overseas and things like that. But we've got a lot of exciting places and really unique places to get out and visit, and obviously that's why everyone was fighting for their freedom and fighting for their not to get their lives screwed over by mandates and all that sort of thing, because if you don't have a job, you can't enjoy those types of things and can't enjoy the country for what it is.
Yep, true that. So briefly back onto, I guess the topic du jour, and that is Paul's case. This break has been, under difficult circumstances for a number of parties, both the prosecution and particularly your defence barrister. There is still an issue of needing some funds in the trust account before the case goes to court. Now, I know you, like me, hate coming on and talking about trying to get money, trying to get donations.
It's an unfortunate reality, though.
Yeah, unfortunately so. Now, you've been advised that you need somewhere in the vicinity of $200,000 to run this case. We're pretty hopeful.
Yeah. Probably
that's
just
the big number.
Yeah, 200. A bit before Christmas, we were given the advice that they managed to, after spending a couple of months going over the whole case, they worked out that realistically it was going to be in the order of 200 grand to run the trial and run the prep for the case in full. It was quite a bit higher than we first thought, but we were thinking about 120. We currently got about 55 or 56 raised, so a long way to go and a very short time to get there. With the change of barrister, that's going to hurt a little bit more because there's going to be additional money to rebrief a new barrister. So we're probably talking closer to somewhere between 200 and 250. Now, that said, it does sound like big numbers, and it is big numbers to the average person, but as far as actual serious trials go, it's actually small numbers, partly because our barrister is about half to a quarter the price of most barristers at the moment, and that's just because he tries to look after people. And as is the new barrister that will be joining the team most likely as well. So to put it in perspective, that big case that was won up in Brisbane last year on behalf of the paramedics and it was paramedics and police, I think, wasn't it? That to run that trial and eventually get the win that they got, I believe that was in the order of about $3 million. So we're talking, what's that? Multiple times, so 15 times more dollars than we're talking here. But this case, I believe, and most of the rest of the team believe, is pretty much equally as important from a level of not so much partially setting a precedent against the abusive process that goes on to concoct these sorts of ridiculous charges to and run a case against you when it really shouldn't be. It's actually more about stopping a precedent being set against people standing up for their rights, freedoms, and even just their general political voice. Which is what this is all about. If you go back to that actual day, there was a few 100,000 people there, give or take 500,000, depending on where your numbers fall. Certainly way more than the figures that get talked about by the mainstream crazies. And out of all that, they couldn't actually find many people to arrest because they were just ordinary Australians that were a reputable type of person that were there to peacefully protest and stand up for what they believed was right and important in their lives and the country. But they were expecting to mass arrest and heaps of violence and all this rubbish. I mean, I obviously thought it was going to be an Antifa rally or something. Which it was not. But at the same time, they were very unhappy that there were that many, clearly by their actions that day and against Paul, and in particular the subsequent few days or week where they very heavily handedly went through and kicked out and turfed out with a fair degree of violence, really. Everybody else was still in the whole area through campsites far and wide. They were clearly unhappy with the fact and probably quite worried that many people were actually there to say what they thought about things. And they obviously had decided to end it at all costs. Now, they haven't had too many wins in trying to set someone up as a fall guy to get totally destroyed so that it scares people off in the future. Well, and that's why they're putting all the force that they are behind Paul. It's not because he did anything dangerous or really intentionally wrong or anything. He was trying to just get to where he had authorization to get to, and he wasn't intending any harm against anyone.
No.
Anybody there, or police, or otherwise. The whole thing's been concocted against him to try and make something stick to someone. And they obviously, I would suspect, thought that because he's a pensioner and has a few disabilities with past brain injuries and dyslexia, can't read or write to save himself through no fault of his own, they must have thought, well, this is a prime target. He's going to be easy to fry. Let's just drag it on a little bit.
He'll accept a plea deal. He'll plead guilty. We'll get money. That's all they want. It's just a bank, the court. It's just a bank. Yeah. And they're out to take as much of your money as they possibly can.
Well, they forced him into legal aid, and that's a con job in itself, especially on something like this, because all their aim was to get him to plead guilty to stuff. And that's what they're still pushing hard now.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Back to the actual funding requirements. It is a pretty serious situation. Not so much for Paul. I mean, if it was just for Paul's sake, you'd probably almost roll over and stop wasting your life and spend a couple of years in jail instead of spending a couple of years fighting it.
And spending a couple $100,000.
That's right. But when it is a significant matter that's important to everybody in this country, whether people really appreciate that or not, it's something that, based on your convictions and what you believe is morally right, you have to stand firm. Unfortunately, we can stand firm and have our family lives destroyed in this, which has been happening at great cost to us personally, but unfortunately we don't have all the funds to be able to drive it home either, so any support there would be very valuable. And if you happen to know anyone that may have an interest in putting in a much bigger chunk of money across a few different people to help raise the extra 150 odd grand, that put them onto us. We'd be happy to sort of try and come up with something that could be mutually beneficial. But one way or another, we've got 3 or 4 weeks to have a lot of money in a bank account to make this go ahead. But we're doing it for everybody.
I think this is a startling example of how our legal system is not geared fairly in any way, shape, or form to be able to offer a full, proper, fair defense against any charge. And of course, you have what I believe to be a statute authorized corrupt agency working with the AFP, who at the drop of a hat can employ laws that were never intended for the likes of Paul Offe or the Freedom Truck, but can employ those to make sure that any asset he may have to fight any charge is forfeit to the court. And they're sneaky bastards because they tried to go to the court behind everybody's back and sell the truck out from underneath Paul. And if it hadn't have been for us being able to get into hearing about that case and then being able to get into it, this would be a moot conversation now. We'd be asking for how much money did you sell it for, and can we have that plus the rest of what it should have been.
Yeah, so, no, it's a nasty game. Essentially, it's just at many levels, it's an abusive process. I mean, there's processes that are meant to be followed that are meant to prevent this sort of thing happening. For starters, the police should be evaluating it and going, hang on, was this really a situation that someone should have been arrested in the first place? Probably not. Definitely not. Secondly, okay, we've arrested him. Has he done anything that actually warrants these ridiculous charges? No. Now, even if that hadn't been evaluated and assessed and adjusted accordingly, once it gets to the court actually is supposed to have a responsibility to decide whether there's actually reasonable charges being brought or not. Now, in a case like this, where it's completely unreasonable, completely ridiculous, and as you say, seizing private people's property for the purpose of hampering their ability to obtain a legal defense, which is essentially what it is. I mean, if he'd been running his truck as for the business that he had just almost finished setting up and was about to launch, he would have had a couple $100,000 in the bank to pay for legal costs. So, the courts should have dropped the ball there as well, in that they should have established that, hang on, something doesn't really add up right. This doesn't look correct.
Well, the court, I would have thought
the
the court should have been asking Coca why they are involved. Show us the evidence of Paul's, illegality, his organised crime commitment. This is what Coca is set up for, to take the assets of organised criminals and that kind of thing. Not to go and have a go at 3 times brain-injured young men who've worked their arse off to give themselves a future, driving what is a pretty unique vehicle. Yeah, and a vehicle that was going to have a movie role as well, which would have given it that extra level of stardom here on the Gold Coast. So Paul's business, driving it around in a chauffeur-type style, would have been a booming business. And probably still could be.
He already had multiple music videos lined up there would have been 3 music videos with it featured in it by now. And 2 movies, a number of other things. He would have been at the he's missed about 5 supernova events that he was supposed to be heavily involved with. He had arrangements with, and he's missed about a couple of Gold Coast car shows that he was supposed to be a sponsor for the kids' day, the family day, things like that. So, completely disgusting. And it's not just affected Paul; it's affected a lot of other businesses that were involved in sponsoring the truck. A lot of other smaller independent artists and all that sort of thing, and it's also affected the wider community, because he was supposed to the few months before the convoy to Canberra, he'd sponsored the family day at the Gold Coast Car Show. He was the most popular attraction there for the whole day, with a line of 20 to 50 kids and their parents all lined up waiting to hop in the truck and have some excitement. It's just complete attack on decent, ordinary people in the community.
I don't know if there is a CJC or some kind of corruption watchdog in the ACT, but I would really consider looking back at the gentleman that was in charge of Coca at the time these charges were put.
The person in charge of Coca is still in charge of it. You mean the DPP, I think.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Is Rory still in Rory's job? I thought Rory had been moved.
No,
it's
that you're thinking of the director of the DPP.
The DPP guy is Shane Drumgold, which, he had a whole heap of shit come into his name with regards to Brittany Higgins and the way that the whole investigation into what happened to her at Parliament House, or what didn't happen to her at Parliament House, whichever way that works out. He handled that so badly that he basically was made to step down out of embarrassment. He is still floating around in private practice, and you can guarantee still protected to a certain extent by the powers that be inside the legal system of the ACT. But the head of Coca is another guy, and that fella, I think both he and Drumgold should face corruption investigation charges by whatever crime and misconduct commission, and I imagine it would be a New South Wales one, can look into the ACT, because their behaviour across the length of this case has been absolutely abhorrent and biased, and in my opinion, vexatious. So they could do themselves a huge favour, and like you say, pick up the phone, fix this in 5 minutes. We're going to drop all the charges. What's the number you need on the check? you can come down and pick up the truck. And
But that requires admitting fault, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they're never going to want to admit fault. So that means to court we go. To court we go.
Yes.
And there are other options. Should the court fall on the side of the illegality that was conducted, there are other ways that we can pursue this civilly after this too, given some of the rather dramatic evidence that we have on file. So all is not completely lost.
I saw a couple of comments from listeners earlier about even if people only put in a few dollars, we'd have the funding. That's pretty right. At the moment, I think about 600 people across the course of the last 2.5 years have kindly donated, very kindly, and very much appreciated. It probably averages out, I think, at about just under $100 a person. That said, if you had a few, even a couple of thousand people put $20 in each, you'd be home and hosed.
Yeah,
it doesn't take a lot across numbers to support it.
No, I understand, and this is a very good cause, folks. If you haven't ever come across Paul, you can go back and have a look at some of the shows that we've done with him over the time. He is a wonderful young man who only wants to do the right thing by everybody, wants to help and grow his communities, wants to be a strong member in those communities, and can bring a truck to the party, which is always useful on big cleanup days. So if you can help out, then what's the best website for folks to go and donate?
The freedomtruck.au website that you can see across the bottom banner there under my screen. If anyone wants to go to that, freedomtruck.au. And please, even if you can't support it yourself, just simply share it far and wide on your different social medias, or email it to your friends even. Ask them to get behind it, and if they can't, ask them to share it. I mean, it's all about numbers.
Yep, all about numbers, absolutely. All right, mate, thank you very much for coming on tonight and having a bit of a chat with us, letting us know how the case is playing out. So we'll talk again sometime in March.
Yeah. Well, one thing I should add, with that 3rd of March, that is a call over hearing. If anyone happens to be in Canberra area at that time, you can certainly go along to that court hearing and show a bit of support. Paul won't be there in person; he'll be on a video link. But yeah, real support is always helpful.
Yep, if you can turn up in the courtroom and wave the flag, all the better. Good on you, mate. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
You too. Paul Offe, or rather Michael Offe, Paul's brother, and an update on what's going on with the Freedom Truck Supreme Court battle that has now been playing out for 3 years. It's getting beyond a joke, and well, we can only hope that sometime in the near future the DPP will come to their senses and make what would be a reasonable offer to settle a case. If we have to take it to court, they are going to be deeply, deeply, deeply embarrassed by the evidence that we have, and there won't be a jury in the country that will convict Paul of any of the charges that he's been accused of, and that's when the check gets exponentially bigger. So I don't expect that the ACT DPP watch this show a great deal, but that would be my advice to you folks. I would be really considering it. Just between you and me. Found this rather interesting ad today. do you say? That's an ad out of the 70s, it's, well, believed. So, well, from the 70s, we go to Marin County in the 2020s. Yes, I asked myself that question too. WTF? So Marin County is in California, and that's over the last couple of days. They've had some very interesting UFO-type appearances in the night rather than the day. London has also had a couple of interesting appearances. This is one that caught my eye.
The fuck are these lights over London?
Interestingly, that's the only report of those blue lights over London that I've been able to find. I haven't spent the day looking, I've got to admit. Did maybe one little search, but that was the only report of those sorts of lights over London that I saw anywhere. It'd be interesting to see if any others managed to catch some of that vision, because it's pretty wild. Very wild, in fact. Kyle Sandilands, folks. Kyle Sandilands. Oh, don't we love talking about Kyle? You probably heard today, he came out on air this morning and confessed that he has a medical condition and will require emergency surgery. That medical condition is a brain aneurysm. Now, I know many people will be surprised to learn that Kyle has a brain, much less that there is anything wrong with it. The aneurysm is quite large, apparently, and a brain aneurysm is a bubble that is forming, and the fear is that that bubble will burst. If that does burst, he'll be dead before he hits the floor, essentially. So he is going in to have some surgery probably a little later this week, while they figure out whether or not they're going to have to cut a hole in his head to get to it, or they're going to be able to go in through keyhole surgery. Kyle sounded a little bit scared about it all when he was talking about it on his radio show today. And while I was watching that and thinking about Kyle and a brain aneurysm, I really had one thing come to mind, and I haven't been able to get it out of my mind since. And that's this rather interesting little video.
All right, stop. Vaccinate and listen. We are back with the brand new injection. Someone grabbed a hold of you tightly. Roll up your sleeves with a daily or nightly. Will this ever stop? Yo, we don't know. But stuck in lockdown really blows. Too many people think Vax is a scandal. Take 2 shots and COVID's handle. Pfizer.
Take 2 shots and COVID's handled. Now he has a brain aneurysm. I wonder if anybody is putting it together, folks. I wonder if anybody at all is putting it together. Knowing Kyle, as I do, not terribly well, I would seriously doubt that it's being put together. I can say that with Kyle having a brain aneurysm, he's probably parked the Bentley, so that will undoubtedly mean, at least for the next week, or maybe up to 8 weeks, there'll be one less dickhead on the road in Sydney, at least.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!